Hey everybody, it's great to have you with us. My name is Chris Murphy, and with me is Patrick Sukup. We are the co-hosts of the Fort Collins Fellas podcast. Patrick, why don't you tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about the podcast and why we started it?
If you're coming to listen to the Fort Collins Fellas, you're coming to get all the information necessary and needed to live the best life possible in Fort Collins, Colorado. Let's go. All right, today, after some technical difficulties, we are sorting it out, figuring it out. That is what we do. We have AnnMarie Kirkpatrick with us, who is with the active modes of transportation in the city of Fort Collins. She has a great backstory. We're excited to talk with her. She has an elite running background, which I'm sure she is able to kind of leverage and implement in some of those conversations with the city of what people are looking for and expecting. But Chris and I are excited to have you. AnnMarie, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It feels funny talking about like biking to work on a, blizzard day.
Well, let's jump in. We will talk about some of your background, but I'm curious, is that an expectation of these active modes of transportation that you are like people will, if we give them a 15-minute city, ride their bike and go get groceries, even during snowstorms?
I mean, I guarantee that there are people doing it right now, but no, that's definitely not an expectation. I think it's, one thing that we kind of like envelope bike to work day in is this shift your ride program where it's like just once a week, just try to make it a habit once a week to shift one commute or one errand or something to be, and you're right, you kind of said 15-minute cities, and that's sort of like a buzz phrase right now with like find the things that are close to you instead of driving across town to go do things. And Fort Collins is actually set up really well to have a lot of areas with 15-minute cities. I think I was counting and I have like 6 really nice grocery stores within 5 minutes of my house, which is unreal.
Interesting. So you got like Horsetooth and LeMay.
Yeah. Yep.
I would say I'm on College and Prospect, and we see people. There's people biking outside this morning. They're crazy.
Yep. Oh yeah.
They're crazy. And so, AnnMarie, your new job with, we'll get back. We'll talk about your past here in a second. But what is your official title now with Fort Collins?
So I'm the Active Modes Program Assistant.
Active Modes Okay.
Yeah, and it's within the FC Moves department, and we just kind of, what we do, or me specifically, is we try to support the community or the culture that Fort Collins has of this active community that likes to bike and walk and run places and by commuting. And so we do that through programs and events and education. So different team members are kind of in charge of different areas of that. And my 2 main events that I put on are Bike to Work Day and Open Streets.
Oh, cool. Okay, I've got a story for you, and I'm curious, so because you've hit on it twice on the recording that didn't necessarily work, but then just again, you discuss culture, and I think that's such a good explanation of all about Fort Collins is the culture and the lifestyle and why people move here and what they want to do with their lives and how engaged people are and intentionality behind how they live their life. And so I have a YouTube channel that's all about living in Fort Collins, and I did a week of biking to work, and I live in Southeast Fort Collins, and I work in Old Town Fort Collins, and it was tough.
Maybe you should start running and training before you do something like that, Patrick.
Oh my gosh! Well, it was no, not the physical. The physical.
Oh, okay.
The physical wasn't bad. I've got a road bike. The physical was just fine. It was the timing, the double bag that I had to bring, because I did go to the gym before I went to work. And then it was the the weather kind of variable that I was like, is this possible? And while yes, I love that you say, the goal is to try to get 1 trip a week or something along those lines away from using your vehicle. And I'm like, absolutely. I could 100% do 1 day a week where either I work from home or I don't even get in my truck. And the other 4 or 5 or whatever, or 4 days a week, I have access to that. But man, I do not know how people can do it with even just one car. Like, I feel like in Fort Collins, you're a 2-car family. Tell me I'm wrong.
There are definitely areas that are more bikeable. And I mean, kudos to you, Southeast Fort Collins to Old Town. That is a haul. I mean, there's no question. I think it depends on, the goals or why you're doing it. If it's for fitness, great. That's an awesome commute, and you can rock that as your daily workout. I think one thing that I don't even know if I should admit this to you guys.
Yes,
but
you should.
On really bad days, I'll bike to the nearest bus stop and just the bus in. And it's
That's
kind
so
of fun. It's like, I mean,
How far to the
somebody
bus
just
stop?
doing all the work. Oh no, it's only like less than half a mile.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it drops me off right downtown, and then I hop off and bike in the rest of the way.
Are you
Don't
like
count.
spraying water
I mean,
on
the
your
bus
face?
is
It
going
looks like
anyway.
you're sweating.
Yeah, exactly. Whew, quite the ride this morning.
I love it.
I mean, it's nice because then I get 20 minutes of just kind of like I start answering emails, and then I feel refreshed when I get into the office of like, well, I already accomplished quite a lot before this day even started. And then, yeah, like you said too, I can work from home whenever I need to, and that's helpful. I think, yeah, one thing 2020 kind of taught us is like we don't really need to be commuting as much as we do, and that's helped. Yeah.
AnnMarie, talk a little bit about, before we recorded, before calls is obviously there's so many things that Fort Collins has going for it, but talk a little bit about the running community in Fort Collins and your kind of backstory around that, because it really is an amazing town. My wife obviously loves you and she follows you, and she has her own running group here in Fort Collins. And I think one of the things when people move to Fort Collins, obviously there's bike trails and this and that, but can you talk about a little bit about the culture? I think there's just such a great, whether it's a running culture or just a, people wanting to be active in the community. I just love to get your kind of thoughts on, you've been here for a long time and your husband went to CSU and everything like that. I think you went to Kansas State. We won't hold that against you, but yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, talk a little bit about the community of Fort Collins and why it's so special for runners and active people.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm going too far, but I feel like there's just something for everyone here in terms of any ability level. The Fort Collins Running Club is a great club that's been around since the 70s, and they've, been known for supporting community runners. And when I first moved here, I was not, I mean, I ran in high school. I didn't, and then I just took a hiatus. But moving here made me want to be active, just daily active lifestyle. And so for a long time, that was a really integral part of my running community. And then, yeah, like we talked about earlier, I enjoyed it so much. I kept running and racing, and it was more and more fulfilling. And I qualified for the trials in 2020 in the marathon. And then, sort of the one thing I felt like at the time Fort Collins didn't have was like an elite running team. And so myself and 4 other girls formed Front Range Elite, and it's a nonprofit running group, and we're very, goal oriented. It's a lot of fun. We're like really silly, but also very serious. It's a team of 11 girls, and we have goals of making U.S. teams, qualifying for the trials, and, work outside of running.
That's awesome.
A lot of the girls are getting PhDs or going to vet school or masters or have full-time jobs, but we kind of hold each other accountable and try to lift each other up. And so, back to kind of like the infrastructure of Fort Collins that supports that as well as the community, we have tons and tons of bike trails and, running trails, Blue Sky and Horsetooth, all of those. And so, yeah, we're really lucky to have a great place to train and commute.
If you run a 10-minute mile, can you run with the elite running group? Is that?
We actually host.
That's on a good day.
No, we host a weekly group run from Rain Tree. It's called 7 at 7. So it's 7 a.m. and we go 7 miles every Wednesday morning. This morning we actually canceled. It's blizzard out there and we didn't want people to try and make it out there. But and we
that was what I was going to go to. How was
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you were, Patrick.
Uh-huh. But we have focus groups. Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
definitely. We love all runners. I mean, we intrinsically hold ourselves accountable to try and, get the best out of ourselves, but running at any level, we love it. And you're going to get me totally sidetracked talking about
Chris will be on the side of the street with our donut and coffee, just cheering you guys on.
Patrick, have you seen the Office episode when Michael Scott does the 5K and then he eats an entire bowl of like pasta?
No.
Like at the very beginning of the race, he's like, gotta carb up, and it just like starts puking.
Oh my God.
No, that's actually how it goes. That's precisely how it's done.
Oh man. Okay, so active modes of transportation, you said it, it's City of Fort Collins is really well set up with trails and paths and things of that nature. And I know a big push is safety for cyclists. Let's just go high level. What does active modes of transportation mean? Like what qualifies as an active mode of transportation?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's basically anything that's not a vehicle. So it could be a scooter or a bike or skateboard, rollerblades, walking, running.
A GoPed with a motor on it.
Yeah, a hoverboard.
What about an e-bike?
An e-bike does, yeah. Yep.
That's kind of cheating, though.
I mean, for people who live in Southeast Fort Collins and have to commute to Old Town.
No, but the goal isn't necessarily like health, right? It's more, or correct me, is more carbon emissions the reason for the push of active modes of transportation?
I think it's multifaceted. There are a lot of benefits. So health is definitely one. The cost of healthcare goes down statistically when people are more active. The enjoyment, the health benefits that come with it. And yeah, carbon emissions for sure is a thought behind all of those things. But yeah, I'd say there's definitely a lot of reasons to switch and try to commute more via active modes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, we deal with clients moving here all of the time. I mean, literally, every other day we have somebody reaching out, moving here to Fort Collins, touches base with us, and consistent denominator of why they're moving here is lifestyle and wanting to push for healthy living and be in a community that supports and is like actively pushing towards that. And like super, super grateful to live in such a sweet city as far as that goes. Could you talk to us about what is Bike to Work Day in the city of Fort Collins?
Yeah, Bike to Work Day is kind of just a celebration of all the people who choose to commute to work, whether they've been doing it one day a week or never, or it's their first time trying it. And it's just kind of supporting and helping give resources and free breakfast from all the station hosts. And so Winter Bike to Work Day, we recently aligned it with International Bike to Work Day. So now it's held in February instead of December. But
what's the date on that? February 10th?
It's February 10th. Yeah. And then the breakfast, breakfast is served from 7 to 9:30. And the map, I'm working on the map. So all the stations are about to come out. We have 60 this year, which is pretty good for a Winter Bike to Work Day. It started in 2007 with 3 stations. So it's grown a lot. And one interesting thing I came across was that if you look at the participation of the entire community, and Fort Collins is huge, these numbers sound so in comparison. So Denver, when they do a Bike to Work Day, it'll be like a 0.7% of the population. And just to show how much Fort Collins loves this event, we get 5% of the population to participate in these kinds of things. And then new this year, we're doing a closing ceremony, and the closing ceremonies will rotate around to different areas of Fort Collins. So we're starting at Linden and Walnut. We've shut down Linden Street, and we're doing a bike giveaway donated by New Belgium. So it's a New Belgium cruiser bike. Crispy Watkins is going to sing some bike songs, some special funny bike songs. Bike songs. Yeah. I haven't heard them. They're going to debut on Bike to Work Day.
I got a cramp in my left hammy.
I mean, I think you should do the next closing ceremonies bike song, maybe.
Patrick, We need to document us riding our bike to work on February 10th.
That'd be good.
We need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
AnnMarie, are these? So I live right by the Spring Creek Trail, really close. Are a lot of these stations on like the Power Trail, the Pooter Trail, or if you're taking like regular roads or streets, are there still stations?
Yeah. So the other thing that we, I guess, haven't touched on yet, in addition to the bike trails, which there will be a lot of station hosts set up along those, but we also have these low stress networks, which are, think of Columbia, Stover, Swallow Street, how they're big, wide streets that have been repainted, repurposed to have a buffered bike lane. So there's the middle lane where the cars drive, and then there's a little buffer, and then there's a dedicated bike lane, and then parking off to the side. And so those are low stress networks where a lot of people feel safe commuting because they're lower speed limit. They're kind of known for bike commuting, and they're an easier way to cut across because the bike paths do a great job, but sometimes you just need to cut across.
Yeah, they just put one of those in on the north side of the old Fort Collins High School, where like that road right now, it looks like just has one lane down the middle for cars, but it's the cars can go both directions, but they're supposed to just kind of veer to the middle when they're going down there to allow more room for bikes.
Yeah.
Do I have that right? Is that the kind of road you're talking about?
So that is a little bit different. You're talking about on Pitkin?
Yes.
Yeah. So that concept is kind of, if you take away the painted lines and think of it as just a regular neighborhood street, that's kind of how you're intended to drive on that sort of street. So, yeah. It's
okay.
Well, AnnMarie, talk to me about, and I don't know if you're the right person necessarily, but maybe you have insight. But with the growth of Fort Collins, like northeast and south, and I know that, we're so intentional, we're, a platinum rated bike community. And that's, I guess, and active modes encompasses so much more like we've talked about. But a big part of that is biking. What type of like new trails are coming, or anything to for folks to look forward to if they're moving in and around Fort Collins? I would love to move to the south side, but shoot, I just can't get I got to be close to a path.
Yeah. So the active modes plan was actually just adopted by the city. And one thing that might help too, that is, okay, we'll back up just a little and say that I think getting the word out about programs and things coming up, there's so many of them. Like the city of Fort Collins, I've been really impressed. I mean, I think I mentioned maybe on the other recording that I'm coming up. I just had my 1-year anniversary of working with the city. And although I've lived here for a long time, I don't think I really realized how much the city really does listen and try to serve the community and what they're wanting. But then also all these amazing programs and things, it's hard to get the word out. So I think even last summer Bike to Work Day, I remember biking by a little family group and they're like, what's going on? Why is this is fun, but I don't know what's happening. And so one thing that I was really excited about was, okay, let's have some different channels of communication and try to, it's been amazing, but there's always, like you said, there's so many people moving here, and how do you let everybody know about what's going on? So we have a Momentum newsletter. It's a monthly newsletter that goes out, and I would encourage anyone who's interested in all the plans coming up, because there are a lot to sign up.
How do they sign up for the newsletter, AnnMarie?
Yeah, maybe we can drop the link in in something, but it's just fcgov.com/fcmoves/momentum.
Okay.
And it just once a month puts out all of the kind of important things that people might want to think about concerning active modes and what's going on, what's being built.
Awesome. I'm looking that up right now. I love it.
Yeah.
What's that?
Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, I'm looking that up because I want to make sure we have that for all of our listeners. FC Moves. I think I got it right here. And then also Open Streets, AnnMarie. Talk to us a little bit about Open Streets. I know it was in August last year. Was that the first time they did it, or am I just...
No, actually, it's the 8th year. Well, there was a hiatus during COVID, so that might be why you're thinking of it as maybe one of the first times. But they've done it twice a year for the past 8 years. So this is something. Actually, kind of a cool tie into this is my mom is from Bogota, Colombia, and the very first, it was ciclovia in Bogota in the 60s was when that started. And then it kind of grew into this worldwide thing of it's closing the streets down to traffic, to, motor vehicles. And so we usually have a minimum of 1 mile stretch. I can announce on this podcast, we just landed on the 2023 spring date. It's going to be June 4th. And we're going to go from Horsetooth to Harmony along landings and boardwalk. And so people can just come out and ride their bikes in the street. We always have a lot of vendors that come out and set up games and activities. And it's just fun. It's kind of showing a repurposing of the streets and then kind of giving this, helping support the idea of streets are built for travel, but not just by cars. They're transportation for everybody. And so, even if you're a driver in Fort Collins, likely you're pretty safe, bicycle aware, you're looking for pedestrians pretty much constantly because there's always someone out there. And so this idea of sharing the streets, and so Open Streets just kind of facilitates that and reimagines areas because, the amount of real estate that roads take up is pretty giant. And so, closing down a section and doing something different in it is kind of fun and just a way to move forward.
What's great about that stuff? I feel like they're always kind of at the leading edge of doing stuff like this.
Yeah, I would agree.
I'm one of those weird people that I own a truck, safety for my family, but I also am a cyclist because like cyclists and truck drivers just like hate each other. I think it's like they're born to despise one another. But no, I think it's one of the things that I love about Fort Collins, honestly, and because I'm not a huge fan of riding my bike on the roads, but is that we have so many trail systems that for like when I was telling you, when I ride my bike from the southeast of Fort Collins to Old Town, there was really only one stretch of McMurray when I'm going kind of by Cruz Elementary and across Harmony that I have to get off of trails and onto the roads. But even that, like they have a plan, I believe, to connect that trail system here in the near future. So truly, I can ride 7 miles from the far southeast side of town to Old Town without ever getting on a road if you don't feel comfortable. Like we had clients moving from Hawaii, and their daughter had never ridden a bike, and she's 18, going to go to school, and she's just super uncomfortable. And there's a lot of people that like might be asked by a friend, hey, get involved with us. Let's go. We're going to go on a bike ride. We're going to ride down to Zwei Brewing or whatever. We're going to jump on the Mason Trail and get to Zwei. And they're like, I know. But there's safe routes with all of these trail systems that we have, which is just a great way to get introduced safely to active modes of transportation in Fort Collins.
Yeah, you nailed it. And I think, the safety is at the forefront of everyone's mind. And so people who are kind of uncomfortable, like you said, riding on the roads have a lot of different options. And then if they want to extend past that, there are a lot of classes through the city that you can take specifically about specifically to become a better rider or even a better driver with cyclists around. So that,
so true.
Yeah, total win-win.
Yeah. AnnMarie, you mentioned the Fort Collins Running Club. What, anybody can sign up for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's open to everyone.
And do they meet weekly, monthly? Tell me a little bit about the running club.
They host a lot. I think
okay.
On their organized group runs, there's probably something at least every day, if not more.
Wow.
They have new member group runs. They'll have one race that I really love here in Fort Collins is the Horsetooth Half, and they have training runs leading up to that.
Great race.
And even if you're not training for the Horsetooth Half, you can just go to their training runs.
I'm going to put a link in the episode. I just looked, Fort Collins Running Club. They got a bunch of stuff here. So I'll put that in there.
I've got one for you, AnnMarie. And this is because you're such a great runner and probably have ran all of the 5Ks and halves and full marathons in Colorado in a 2-hour radius, because I ain't driving more than 2 hours to go run a race. What would be your favorite street race if you were either A, wanting to be competitive, or B, just wanting to go out and have a good time and like, man, this is a great introduction to running. I want to do more.
Okay, I will admit that I'm very biased on this, but even before I was helping, so our team helps put on Mountain Avenue Mile, but I'll tell you why it's special because Jane Welzel, who was a really good runner in Fort Collins, she passed away in 2014 from pancreatic cancer, and she had put on this race for the past 20 some years. So this is the 25th anniversary of it this year, actually. And our team helped put it on for the past 2 years, which has been really special. Just, I think she was a national champion in the marathon. I think her marathon PR is 2:33, and she was just a really big advocate for running in the community. She did training runs and Tuesday Night Track, if you guys have ever heard of that, but just kind of an inspirational person and very welcoming. And even though I moved here in 2009, I never got to meet her because I wasn't really into the running scene competitively until after I had kids. So 2013, 14. And so I think kind of carrying that race on in her memory and being part of that has been really special to me. I know that's a way longer answer and
No. And it's
that
called
we bargained for, but yeah, Mountain Avenue Mile is really special to me. And I have my mile PR there, and it's at altitude.
What's your mile PR? I'll tell you mine after you tell me yours.
It's 4:56.
Oh.
And I like have these dreams of going down and running at sea level, but I haven't done that yet. So
yeah, only 1 mile. So great introduction for those.
I love it.
Want to go run 3.6 miles.
All right. A follow-up, AnnMarie, and we were so bummed, and I'm going to just put, I have a job for you, is what I'm basically telling you. How do we get the fortitude back? I mean, if they killed that, I feel like premature. And that, for those who don't know, that's like the boulder of Fort Collins, the fortitude, the 10K. I ran it now. That was my only 10K I've ever ran, and then they canceled it.
Yeah, it was really fun. I don't know how to get that back. That would
come up with millions of dollars. I'm sure we'll do it.
I know. Chelsea wanted me to, she was like, God, you got to ask her, see if she could bring it back. I was like, all right. It was a great race. I don't know why they got rid of it.
Yeah, I think, it always comes down to financials, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us about what you're a year anniversary in at the Fort Collins Modes of Transportation. Congratulations.
Thanks.
What for you do you see Fort Collins moving forward as a success, or just stepping forward in the right direction? What do you see Fort Collins doing here in the near future as far as your perspective?
That's a great question. So somebody told me this that kind of stuck with me, that like, what if when you said Bike to Work Day, it was so ridiculous that it would be a celebration because people are so used to it? It'd be like saying, yeah, it's Drive to Work Day. And, nobody would even think of doing anything else, or like it would be such a habit. So I think, having it kind of outgrow, honestly, like just to be so common that people want to bike to work or run to work or whatever. I think when I say bike to work, it encompasses everything. But yeah, just to have that attitude. I think the other thing, we, for the first time, invited schools to participate in this citywide event. And so there's some really, fun schools. Because I think when during COVID and shortly after, I would sometimes drive the boys into school. I have 2 sons. They're now 11 and 9. And it was always this like kind of yucky car ride. I don't know why. It's like something about the car makes them angry. And when we started biking in, it was this really beautiful thing, honestly, because it was our time for chatting. Or Owen, my older son, actually gave up the bike and he likes to run in with me. And we would just talk and, get to school. And I felt like they were just happy to be there, and it totally changed everything. And I'm seriously not telling this story because I am an advocate of active commuting. It's true 100% story. And then, I don't know, you walk by the school pickup and drop off lanes are so scary. And so another, you're asking like, what would be a success? I think having more people who live close, within a mile or two radius. It's so doable to bring their kids into school or work, and just help with the congestion and the air quality, because last year Fort Collins air quality went down, and that was a sad day for me, especially as a runner, to have that. But yeah, so I think cutting down the congestion and cleaning up the air quality via these efforts would be really a sign of success.
Well, I can second that in the sense of, I was talking to you about how challenging it was for me for that entire week. But the thing that I really did enjoy was the reflection period for that. Instead of that 15 minutes, just get to work, go. It's like, shit, it's going to take me 35 minutes anyways. So I might as well just sit here, enjoy the sunrise and think. So I could definitely see, lifestyle, quality of life, enjoyment, getting out of a car and out into this wonderful fresh air landscape we have.
Yeah. And honestly, depending on where you live, actually quicker to commute bike, because you're not stuck in traffic, or you don't have to deal with the stop signs or stop lights or congestion. So you have your bike paths. So.
We've all had that situation where you see that person riding their bike. You're like, oh my God, they're still with me. I'm still driving down the road.
Totally.
Well, Chris, you wanna coming to the end. We do have a question that we always ask,
and it's so no. First of all, AnnMarie, thank you so much for coming on, and for those that follow your running career, where's your next race? Real fast, where are you going to be doing your next run?
Oh, it's going to be in New York. It's a 50K in March.
Look at Patrick's face. A 50K in March. All right, we're going to have to bring you back and talk more about running. That's crazy. That's awesome. So AnnMarie, before you do your 50K in New York, Fort Collins is known as one of the beer meccas of the world. Our brewery scene is fantastic here. Do you have a favorite patio in the summertime or in the wintertime, depending how fearless you're feeling, where you want to grab your a local beer? Favorite brewery patio?
Ooh. So my childhood friend from Kansas actually moved to Fort Collins a few years ago, and she works in New Belgium. And I'm going to have to say New Belgium, even though I know that's old school.
The common denominator is their smaller competitor, Odell's, but New Belgium doesn't get nearly as much love.
No, it doesn't. It's kind of weird.
No.
You might be the first person that said New Belgium.
Maybe everybody else is like, no, you can't say New Belgium. That's the opposite.
I know, yeah.
But
no, great choice. And that lawn is just awesome. And obviously it's like what, Fort Collins has been put on the map. I'm literally reading, I think it's called Fort Collins, A Beer History right now. And it's talking about our history of prohibition and beers. And it's so no, I mean, what this has always confused me. How are runners and beer so linked? There's always beer at the end of a race. Yeah. I feel like I want a freaking water with some Gatorade.
And pizza.
It's carb reload, right?
Okay.
Yes. I'm with you on that for sure.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, AnnMarie, thank you for coming on. Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm going to put this in the links in the podcast. We've got the Mountain Avenue Mile. I've got that. We got the Fort Collins Running Club. And then real quick before we let you go, fcgov.com/fcmoves. Is that right?
Yep. And then /momentum. Yeah.
Oh, /momentum. That's what I was missing. Okay. Well, I will have those in the show notes. And AnnMarie, have a great 2023. And we'll have to check back in after your 50K.
Yes. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.